Welcome to Said in Stone, an Ozinga podcast, where we converge with industry leaders, our own expert coworkers, and others on what we've made, what we can build on, and the legacy we'll leave behind. Subscribe to the program on your preferred podcast app, as well as on YouTube for full video of every conversation. And give us a follow on Instagram at saidinstone_podcast. Today's guest is Rita Sola Cook, president of Bank of America Chicago. Rita is responsible for connecting individuals, families, businesses, and institutions across Chicagoland to Bank of America's various wealth management resources. On Sunday, October 12th, the city will again host the Bank of America Chicago Marathon, a legendary running event and one of the largest of its kind in the world. Among over 50,000 runners from nearly 150 countries, more than 35% come from international locations, with 18,000 participants running for 200 different charitable causes. Now approaching 3 decades with Bank of America Chicago, Rita shares this week the economic and philanthropic impact of the race, as well as her joy for funneling civic responsibility and nonprofit work through a financially global footprint. Let's check out the conversation led by Ozinga CEO Marty Ozinga.
Glad to have you here. I'm so glad you could be here, Rita. And I'd love to just hear your story and, learn more about you and then get into some of the things, you're doing professionally, but also personally, and just learn more about you as a person.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me here, Marty. It's great to be so close to home. Well, I've born and raised in Chicago in a neighborhood called Hegewisch in southeast Chicago. When my husband retired from the military in 2015, we decided to make the Chicago land our home. So we live out here in the Chicago suburbs. But my parents were from Roseland and Pullman. When they had got married and got a starter home in the early 70s, they chose Hegewisch as their neighborhood.
And that's where you grew up?
That is where I grew up. I went to grammar school in Hegewisch in a typical, 1970s, 1980s, was outside playing, out in the neighborhood till the streetlights came on. And my parents lived there through high school. So I spent time at an all-girl high school in South Holland, same place where Ozinga had started. It was all girls, called Seton. And they lived there until I was in my 20s. My father's parents were immigrants from Italy. And so when they were in the Rosen-Pullman area, they owned a tavern and a laundromat. And when my father had spent some time in the Air Force, so he was over in Berlin during the Cold War, and when he left the Air Force, he had joined the Chicago Police Department. So when he met my mom, they had to live within the city limits, and they chose Hegewisch as the place. My mom was from the area as well, and while he was a Chicago police officer while I was younger, he ended up switching to commercial insurance. But at that point, they were raising children in what was a wonderful neighborhood, still is. Great upbringing, community-focused, family-focused, faith-focused. And it really gave me a sense of community. I wouldn't have wanted to grow up anywhere else.
Yeah. A lot of people, if someone says they're from Chicago, particularly people from out of town from Chicago, don't totally appreciate that really Chicago's a collection of neighborhoods. And people have, oftentimes a multi-generational sort of connection to a neighborhood within the city.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. So I grew up in the city, and my friends that I spent time with went to my same grammar school or high school. When I went to high school, as I'd mentioned, I had gone to an all-girl high school, and I didn't realize the importance of going to a private all-girl high school at the time. Our brother's school was Mount Carmel, and I happened to cheer for Mount Carmel. So many of the gentlemen I know that some of you know actually had also gone to Carmel. Until this day, it's created a very strong network of people that have similar, but then at times diverse backgrounds from a socioeconomic perspective. And it's interesting, just the connectivity is that fabric that creates who you are early on.
Yeah. My wife and I have 6 children, and we're raised, we've been in the city since we were married. It's interesting to me how a number of the high schools, the kids start to know each other, because of different clubs or sports or any number of things. And there is sort of a kinship for city kids, from different schools and whatnot. And it seems like there's a trajectory to some degree of people who have those relationships that carry on, into when they stay in Chicago to have this ongoing sort of, it's like a relationship town in a way. It's a big city, but it feels like more of a relationship-based place.
I agree. I've had the opportunity now, as my career has advanced, to join groups such as this Civic Committee for Chicago or World Business Chicago. And you can always point back to relationships in Chicago. So for being the world's, the United States' third largest U.S. city, 19th largest economy in the world, it's amazing what a small, big city it is.
Yeah. How do you see Chicago unique to maybe other places in the world that you've been to, or, what gives it that tenor?
So, I've been with the bank now for 28 years.
Okay.
And so I'm going to go back. And throughout my career, I've been asked to move other places. I came from Legacy LaSalle Bank.
Which is very much considered a relationship type of place.
Absolutely. And I still talk to many of the men and women that I had started with at LaSalle. Many have gone on to other financial institutions or have retired.
Seems like all bankers were at one time at LaSalle.
Yeah, there's a handful of banks. I was going to say, everything it feels like the nucleus at times. But when I go to these different meetings or different committees, there's a lot of Chicago pride. And so while I've been asked to move to other locations, would I go to headquarters in Charlotte? Would I go to New York? Would I have taken a job over in London with Bank of America? If you're from the Midwest, you're usually Midwest humble. But I really believe it's a city that works. They say we're the city of big shoulders. I love the fact that there's no one industry that makes up more than 12, 13, maybe 14% of our economy now with tech. I believe it's a city, when I go back to the civic committee, of people that understand that the for-profit part of the world has to work with the nonprofit and with the civic committees. I believe from a civic responsibility, we're all aiming to make it a better place. And I haven't lived in other cities, but I see how Chicagoans come together. And when I say Chicago, it's greater Chicagoland, right? That's how I think about it.
Yeah, I didn't grow up in the city.
Yeah.
And I had so much Chicago pride. I grew up in Evergreen Park, which is not considered city Chicago. But whether it's the sports teams or even just going downtown as a kid or whatever, I went off to school out of state. And, I had such a pride about Chicago. And I embraced the brand of Chicago, not even being from the city. And I think that's the case for a lot of people in the metro area, that they consider themselves Chicagoans. Of the 10 million people in the metro area, at the end of the day, if you go anywhere, you say, well, I'm from Chicago.
I'm from Chicago.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I said, the one thing I love about Chicago is, to your point, we've got a beautiful lakefront, world-renowned cultural institutions, some of the best restaurants in the world. The people are friendly. I love all four seasons. And so fresh water, what's not to love about Chicago? And I think that's why Condé Nast just voted us the best large U.S. city 8th year running. And so there's a lot to be proud about with Chicago.
So tell me, you kind of brought me through high school, and then what happened?
So, like I said, born and raised in Chicago, went to school in the southwest suburbs, went away to college to get an accounting degree. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and my father was the one who really guided me toward business. My dad's one of 10.
Oh, wow.
I've got 24 first cousins. My dad's the third oldest, and so I'm of the older generation of cousins. But he nor my mom had the opportunity to go to college. And so I was the first one, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And he pushed me toward accounting. He said, listen, if you can read a balance sheet, you understand the financials, it'll help you in whatever career that you want to go. And so started off at Eastern Illinois, came back my last year and worked full-time at an insurance company close to Midway Airport while finishing my degree at Governor State.
Okay.
And the first company I worked at was an insurance company. Insure One, and I was working on basic payroll, different types of accounting, and a woman I worked with there, talking about relationships, had gotten a job at LaSalle Bank, and she's asked me to come work for her. And she's like, come work for me in the city. And at the time, I'm in my early 20s. I'm doing the math. I've got to take the train. I've got to buy my lunch. Is this worth it? And I decided to go work at LaSalle. Started off as a basic analyst, doing cost accounting for our commercial bankers and for our treasury partners. And the first 7 years of my career were in finance, supporting the team. About the time I was trying to figure out what do I want to do next, somebody asked me to come over to the product management side. And I was paused. I'm like, well, what do I know about product management? And they're like, well, you work on our financials every day. You're working on the business cases. Move from, looking at the numbers and analyzing the numbers. Come help us build the platform that the customers are going to be using. And I thought, what a great opportunity. And so I did take them up on that opportunity. And about a year into that role, we were being acquired by by Bank of America. In between all that, I had done a short stint overseas for our parent company, which was ABN AMRO, so spent some time in the Netherlands. Working on the Volvo Ocean Race. I was working on the financials. I was not working on the marketing side of that. But it was about my 9th year into my career, and they asked me to work on the LaSalle Bank integration into Bank of America. And at the time, I had many colleagues that were going to other regional or super regionals, and I'd been asked to go, but they asked me to go back in a finance function. And I felt, I was really enjoying the people I was working with. I was enjoying learning about this, global institution. And I figured at that time I was going to take a risk. I was going to determine, could I work in this large institution and maybe be a small fish in this big pond versus going in a kind of a safety zone. And sure enough, I stayed. My role had been eliminated. I went from managing a team to being an individual contributor, but I'm happy I stayed because it was during the financial crisis. And I had the ability to work on the LaSalle integration, the Merrill Lynch integration. I briefly saw what happened with Countrywide. And I ended up working with our liquidity funding desk. So as companies are moving their cash to us during the crisis, I was working with the sales teams to price that. It gets kind of technical, but at the end of the day, somebody said, Rita, what are you doing in support? You're a salesperson. I'm like, no. I'm never going to be in sales. And once again, they said, you do it every day. You just do it internally. Come talk to the clients. You understand the financials, my accounting background. You understand the products. Come listen to clients and help them understand how they're going to listen to their problems and figure out how our products and solutions can help them. So I'm happy I made the move over to sales. I have enjoyed it. I've been mostly on the sales side since. I'd spent some time running our international treasury outbound, so U.S. headquartered companies, doing business overseas. It's where I met our current CFO, Alistair Borthwick. Okay. He was running our commercial bank at the time. And my current boss, Katie Knox, who runs the private bank, was running business banking. Alistair, after I was running that sales team, asked me to come over and be his COO for the commercial bank. The reason he asked me to do that is during talent planning once, they said, what do you want to do? And I said, I'd really love to be a COO. They're like, but you're a salesperson. I'm like, actually, no, I'm not. Let me tell you my background. And it was probably the most meaningful or one of the most meaningful 14 months of my life being the COO for our global commercial bank. Think about it. We're in 97 U.S. cities, 30 countries around the globe. To understand how we support our clients and how the capital we deploy stimulates the economies that we are part of, how we work with the regulators, how we're speaking to the board, how we're working with our marketing team, what we're doing with HR. It was a great learning experience. I did that, Marty, for about a year. My daughter was born right after that. We can talk about that in a little bit. But then Alistair asked me to run the Midwest for commercial banks. So clients between, call it $50 million and $2 billion. We handle many clients that are above $2 million, but they're predominantly privately held institutions. Got to work out of Chicago, which is where I wanted to be. And that carried me through the pandemic. Post-pandemic, they did ask me to make a career change. It was about the 25-year mark. They asked me to consider coming over to private banking, working with ultra-high net worth families. And once again, here I am 25 years into my career, confident. And I said, well, what do I know about ultra-high net worth individuals? So like, Rita, you're working with their families every day. Most of their liquidity is tied up in their company. Come talk to them, not about their capital for their balance sheet. Come and talk to them about their family, their legacy, their philanthropic giving, what they're doing with the next gen. So I've been doing that for the last 3 years. The same time, Brian Moynihan, our CEO, asked me to be Chicago president, and I was honored to do both. Throughout
your career, somehow or another, there's a relationship where you made an impression, and they're asking, and you raised your hand and said, I'm interested in this and I'm interested in that. I think a lot of young people just need to hear these stories because you did a good job in where you were at. You made an impression on somebody who then, the relationships start to build and then doors start to open based on, relationships that you've managed to build. And it's really, I think it should be an encouragement to young people who maybe aren't super clear. How do you become president of the Midwest? And there's a combination of what I hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just sort of like do a really good job where you're at and trust the process. When the time comes, someone asks you, don't be afraid to be assertive, raise your hand and say what your dream is or whatever. But then, you get a chance to sort of follow, other leaders who you've made an impression on. And I think that's a common story. Your story is extremely unique, and it's your own story. But I hear similar stories oftentimes where, there's not like a clear blueprint for something like this.
There was not. I didn't even know what the Chicago president was growing up in Southeast Chicago. But to your point, you encapsulated it. You summarized it. I didn't realize until I was further into my career. But to your point, when younger people coming into the marketplace ask me, what should I do? I'm like, do a good job in the job you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, know where you want to go, but raise your hand for some projects that might seem hard, that get you outside of your comfort zone. You never know who's watching. You never know who you're looking at. I didn't do special projects because of that. The other thing is I always tell people, be intellectually curious. Like, you never know who you're going to meet or what you're going to do. I think about my career, the woman, Kim, who asked me to move from the insurance company over to the bank. Or during the transition of Bank of America taking over LaSalle, I didn't know who I was making an impression on, but the woman who had gone on to run she ran our global tech and global ops before she retired a couple years ago. Her name was Kathy Basant, asked me, Rita, I'm not sure what you're going to do. Your job has been eliminated, but I want you to work at Bank of America, because she saw what I was doing. Or I think back to Katie Knox, who runs the private bank now, or Alistair. They saw what I was doing. And so I think doing a good job in the job you're in, but knowing where you want to go. I'd also gotten advice once, don't tell people what they want, they want to hear. Tell them what you know based on the facts you have. You might have facts that they don't, and you might not have all the facts. So that's where you have to stay intellectually curious to learn from others. And I think that applies both in professional and personal, right? To keep an open mind and try to understand all sides.
Yeah. I had the good fortune of spending a little bit of time with Jim Collins.
Yes.
You invited,
I'm a big fan of Jim Collins.
Yeah, you guys invited me to go. And one of the big takeaways for me that he said was work harder at being interested than being interesting. Yeah. And I just, that was like really a great nugget for me. And just that idea of being curious, not just about the work, but about people. And, don't try to be too much or do too much for you. Just really be curious, make it about lifelong learning, and really be interested in other people, because they can see that, oh, wow, that's a very curious person. They really are interested in not only the work, but me, and and that's the kind of person people want to be surrounded by.
And I think it's about the art of listening, not listening to respond, but listening to really learn. And sometimes I will be quiet in a room, and it's because I'm still digesting. And then the next day I'll come back and be like, this is what I heard. Is that how you understood it? Or
I love that.
The other thing that that I learned throughout my career is work to get it right, not be right. Like once again, listening to have all the facts. You've got to get it right. You don't have to be it right, especially when you're in the customer business. Yeah. Like, you have to understand from all sides. And so I think all of those things have helped me. Two other things Alistair taught me this is my role is important. I'm not in the best possible way. Someone's had it before me. Someone's going to have it after me. My job at this point in my career is to be a leader. And I really try to be a servant leader. I work for the team, whether it is the team I work with here in the Midwest, or our clients, or the Bank of America Chicago Marathon team. At the end of the day, I'm here to make things happen for them. And hopefully the person that comes in behind me moves it ahead even further.
Yeah, no, that's great. I have to plug Bank of America a bit myself. As a company, we've been doing business going back to the LaSalle days.
Yes.
And then anytime there is like sort of a buyout or a takeover, you wonder if that same ethos or the relationships will continue. And for us, they certainly have. Sometimes people think of bankers or big banks, not necessarily from a human perspective. It's like this big, brand.
Who is this big company?
Yeah.
What are they doing coming and taking over?
Yeah. And I just think in general, like, people think of, big corporations, like within whatever lens they think of a big corporation. But from my perspective, it's been very much relationship banking since the beginning, going back to the LaSalle days.
Thank
and
you.
Bank of America has always fought for us and been there for us. And we've built a long time, almost, it's over 20 years now of relationship where the bank has just been such a great partner for us. And we're just very, very thankful for that, for the relationship.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And it really is about having a partner, right? Sometimes you'll come in and things will feel very transactional based. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you want a relationship. You want it to benefit both sides. You need to have a certain level of transparency on why a transaction or a deal is done, but you want to frame it in the context of relationship. And I think you touched on something that I was going to highlight is I think Brian Moynihan, our CEO, was brilliant in that, as I'd mentioned, we operate in 97 U.S. cities, 30 countries. Brian is not going to be able to be in all 97 U.S. cities. And in Chicago, people are like, they can't say we're a global bank, but we're local. 5,400 people work at Bank of America here in Chicago.
That's a lot.
Think about the size of the company. And so, yes, we are a local bank that have access to a global balance sheet, global technology, global infrastructure. And so what Brian had said is in our countries outside of the U.S. borders, he's got country heads that assist there. And in cities like Chicago, being the third largest U.S. city, they have presidents. And so my role as president, people are like, well, what does that mean? You've got this title of president. It's really three things. One, it's to make sure that all 5,400 of our colleagues, they might not have a manager or a leader that sits here. How do we stay them connected with our messaging? What's happening? I meet with the market presidents and Brian. We just had a meeting last Friday. We meet at least once a month, maybe every 2 weeks to hear from Brian, share feedback. It's a two-way conversation with him and make sure we're paying the message forward. Number two is clients. We might be working with you on your corporation. We might be working with you on your family wealth. We might be working with your employees. What are we doing with those relationships? If we're truly local, we should understand it from a 360. So colleagues, clients, and then the final thing is community. You've heard Jim Collins speak and you've heard Brian speak before. Yes, we're a for-profit institution.
Right.
However, we believe in purpose. It's the power of and to go to Jim Collins. For-profit and purpose. And so the work I do in the community, whether it's board service, what our teammates do volunteering, giving out local grants. We are empowered here locally. We've got a local grant process. Our teammates volunteer. We work with Brian on what we need. So we are a local bank. And my goal is to help the other business leaders here in Chicago as a cabinet, if we've had our own board, and make sure that I'm filtering information to and from Brian on what our teammates need in Chicago, what our clients need in Chicago, and from a civic responsibility perspective, what we have to do with the communities we're a part of.
Tell me about more of the civic philanthropic. I know we're going to get into the marathon a bit. You mentioned grant making. Chicago's a big place. How do you even go about all that?
Yeah, so in greater Illinois, in greater Chicagoland, there's still a need for job creation.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our grants have gone toward nonprofits that are helping create skills for people to have meaningful wages or to be on a trajectory to have a skill. Maybe they're not going to be in financial institutions. Many of them won't be. But how can we get them into a place that are going to continue to fuel the economy? A better economy is good for what you're doing in building, what we're doing in financial institutions.
It's
an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so that is really where we're spending time. We also give out 2 grants annually. They're 200,000 unrestricted grants. We call them neighborhood builders. They're not physically building a neighborhood, but it could be something from a social aspect. It is, once again, another application process. But what's unique about that is it's not these $200,000 grants that we give away. It also matches it with education. And so we've got cities across the United States where it's the leader and an emerging leader that become part of our Bank of America training program, and they get to meet other nonprofits from across the country, and they create these ecosystem or cohorts. And so we try to give back in multiple ways, whether it's our teammates' treasure or time, our treasure or time, and then just being a better community partner.
I don't know if it's public or not, but can you give us a sense of how does the bank even determine what is the budget for? I mean, you mentioned a couple levels of things. I mean, at the end of the day, is there some collars around what the budget is for that kind of thing?
Yes. So so I'll think about when we start at the top with our philanthropic giving. So there are nationwide programs. Bank of America has a nationwide foundation, and every year it's determined how much Bank of America from a nationwide perspective is going to give for a larger grant. There's something called anchor grants that I apply for here in Chicago against our foundation for different nonprofits we work with. Some of those previously had been announced, whether it was something that we were doing with the Shedd Aquarium, which had gotten $1 million, or the jobs program at the Obama Foundation when they were working on jobs on the south and west side of Chicago. Then there are the local grants that we decide. We get an annual budget. We understand what that budget is, and then we look at where are our teammates spending their time, where do we have board members, and why does that matter? We don't just want to give money. We want to give time and treasure to make sure that we can help influence, direct, help bring our skill sets to the table. And so that process happens twice a year. And like I said, it's over different pillars.
Okay.
And then in terms of what we match, that's been standing for quite some time. I'm not sure how that one was determined, but there's different ways that we give financially and from an awareness perspective.
Okay.
We worked with the city colleges of Chicago around technology recently to help create a program to take some of our expertise. We have something called a leader on loan. We take one of our leaders and we borrowed them to city colleges for a year to help create a program around technology. In addition, we gave dollars.
Okay.
And the whole process was to give individuals an opportunity to, once again, learn from expertise in our field. We pay for that individual, we loan them, and then they come back to their job.
Is that a full, I mean, how long is the loan process?
It's a year. It's
for a whole year. Someone goes to work
commitment.
full time?
Somebody goes to work for a nonprofit of their choice
for a year.
For a full year. We usually have 1 or 2 leaders on loan out at any given time in Chicago. But once away, it's a different way to give back.
We're recording this, so I don't have to take notes, but we're taking notes here. I think this is interesting. There's a lot of interesting ideas that people, your companies come up with.
And you can find me afterwards, Marty.
Okay, good.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what's coming up?
Yes.
And just
of course.
Just over our Bank of America signature event here in Chicagoland is the Bank of America Chicago Marathon. People from Chicago know it doesn't start with the Bank of America Chicago Marathon. We have got something called the Bank of America Chicago Distance Series.
Okay.
It starts with the Shamrock Shuffle. It usually kicks off the beginning of running season. Weather is pretty iffy around the Shamrock Shuffle time, the 8K. It can be pretty cold. It's mainly a Chicago-based race. However, it's really the start of our running season. We extended that to a 13.1 on the west side, Marty.
I've done it a couple times,
You have run that.
I love it.
And we decided...
I did the inaugural one.
You did
I wasn't sure what to expect, but it was amazing.
So what did you enjoy most about it?
Well, I was... one of the things, I didn't know how people would feel about us invading their neighborhood.
Exactly.
Like, how are they going to feel about this?
There was a lot of chatter going into that about us invading the neighborhood.
But people loved it. I mean, they were on their front porches cheering us on, and, it was just really, I don't know, it was just a great thing to see the community come out for it, for the inaugural one. And I've done it since, too. But, I just thought it was great turnout, and the hospitality of the neighborhood was just fantastic. And, what a great way to sort of have, community building. So
we decided, for the inaugural one, post-pandemic, we decided to bridge the Shamrock Shuffle 8K with the marathon, with a half in June. And the shirts even say, reimagine the race. And so we took it out of downtown, out of the neighborhoods you traditionally see, and we went to the west side of Chicago, Garfield Park, Humboldt Park, Douglas Park. And unfortunately, these are neighborhoods that occasionally are in the news, and they're sensationalized about what's happening on the west side. And we decided to put it there. They've got beautiful parks, beautiful boulevards, and to your point, the neighborhood engagement in the area, my husband runs all the races as well, was unbelievable. In the first year, we weren't quite sure, but since then, the number of running groups that have come out of the west side. So there's a group that we work with. They're called Peace Runner 773.
Cool.
They started with a small group. They've got a large group, and then now they run the marathon. So it all culminates, though, with the Bank of America Chicago Marathon. We've got the 47th running this year. It also comes from Legacy LaSalle, so I joke that it came with me from LaSalle Bank. But I'm not a runner, but I love the race. I'm living the runner's dream. And so people are like, well, Rita, why do you love the marathon so much? And I said, well, one is a native Chicagoan from Chicagoland. It showcases our city.
Yeah.
We've got such a beautiful city. And you've got 54,000 runners, a third of which, actually more than a third, 36% of which are coming from international locations.
That's the amazing thing to me when I'm out there is like, wow, there's people from all over the world
140 countries.
That's amazing.
They're coming in from 140 countries, all 50 states, and a quarter of the people are here for the first time. And if you think about the economic impact, last year, they estimate that the economic impact was $683 million. And people say, well, how is that possible? Go back to the statistics. I'm an accounting girl, remember? Accounting woman here. If 36% are coming from international locations, many of them aren't coming by themselves. They're not coming in for a day or two. They're getting in, they're getting rest. They're staying at our hotels, they're eating at our restaurants, they're visiting our cultural institutions. They are fueling the economy of Chicago.
Yeah.
Again, another quarter are visiting Chicago for the first time, both from the 140 countries and 50 states. And so the economic impact is one of the largest events in Chicagoland. And so talk about stimulating the economy.
Yeah.
That's just one of the reasons I'm proud.
Yeah.
But people always said, well, okay, well, if I'm not from Chicago and I'm not from, why do I care? And that's going back to what we spoke about, something that you and your family and your company are passionate about. And Bank of America, it's the philanthropic aspect. I said, if you are not going to be out there running, and you happen to be, and you're not one of the 1.7 million spectators along the route.
That's another amazing thing. 1.7 million people cheering on the 50-some thousand runners. I mean, it's an incredible day.
And then the neighborhoods.
I love race day.
We go through 29 distinct neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It showcases the cultural diversity of Chicago. But if you're not into the economic impact, the philanthropic giving. So when I first became Chicago president 3.5 years ago now, I was thinking to myself, all right, I'm a Chicagoan, I'm proud, but if I'm not in Chicago and I'm in a suburb, I'm not a runner, why do I care? And it's on our ATMs now, it's wrapping our financial centers. You care about one of the over 200 causes that people are running for that day. Bank of America Charities has 18,000 runners this year running for a cause bigger than themselves. American Heart, diabetes, cancer. I've been personally impacted by cancer. I had cancer. How many people have?
Yeah.
All of these runners are running for something bigger than themselves, and they generated $36 million last year.
Wow.
I think it's the single largest charity event in the state of Illinois.
That's
so
fantastic.
I've got a lot of pride.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
No, that's amazing. I think that you should have pride. Tell me about just sort of the logistics of things and even the Bank of America. Like, is this, are you the sponsor? Is it your race? Like, what does it even mean? And how much are you organizing versus someone else? And then also, I'm just curious about how does it determine even how many racers people can be in it or not be in it? Like, why not 100,000? It seems like everybody would want to be. I'm just curious about a number of things.
No, so
all the sort of behind the scenes here.
I like your intellectual curiosity. So as a runner and just as a businessman. New York's currently the biggest.
Okay.
Boston is the oldest. Chicago is the fastest. And so I always say we're a flat course, therefore we are a fast course.
Does that mean it's the easiest?
I don't know if it's the easiest. I don't think anyone that's getting out there and running 26 miles would probably not say a marathon is easy. But I say that because if you think about it, when we think about the number of people we can welcome to our city, we've got to make sure it's safe.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure the course is set, and that from a logistics perspective. The one unique thing about Chicago compared to other races, we start and stop in Grant Park. Mm-hmm. And we've got great coordination. We could not do this without, we've got 10,000 volunteers. Our partnership with the city and the state, all of the law enforcement agencies that are involved in this. But the race starts, the day after race day, we take a break. And then we start planning the Tuesday after every year.
So it's a full-time.
It is a full-time. We've got a great race director, an executive race director, Carrie Pinkowski.
He's been at it for a long time.
He has. He's been here since Legacy LaSalle.
Okay.
He has been here for a long time. And I say many of the runners.
And that's his full-time job.
That is his full-time job. So he works, he and his team work on all of our races. He sits on the same floor with me in Chicago.
Okay.
So we will walk across the hall to get to one another to catch up on things. But he is out there. He was just hosting the American Cancer Society in our building a couple weeks ago. He's out in the neighborhoods, whether it's a 13.1 doing volunteerism or getting the groups on board. He's helping us coordinate events to pay it forward, like the Pay It Forward Runners Clinic. There's so many aspects that go into this. And so race day really starts, you see race day, it's been planning all 365 days. Some of the biggest partners that we have really around are working with the city and the state just to make sure the race course is secure, which is an important feature of it. It's working with all of our media partners to showcase it. Once again, we've got runners from 140 countries. It's broadcast around the world to Carrie and his team getting the runners. I mean, I think about Chicago, we're a city of records. We hold both men and women marathon world records right now. Kelvin Kiptum broke the record. In fact, I've got a picture of he and I. I was holding the race tape.
Oh, that's awesome.
When he had crossed the finish line. He finished in 2 hours and 35 seconds. He currently holds the record from a race perspective in 2023. Carrie had known him for years. And so Carrie's got to attract the talent to get people and all those elite runners ready for the race. Ruth Chepngetich, another Kenyan, had won last year. She holds the record for women. I was standing on the side and I was able to present her award to her. So whether it's working with the city, whether it is working with our hotel partners, it's a huge effort. It's a big lift, but the rewards showcase in the numbers.
Yeah. It's amazing the logistics, like pre-race day, like the pickup, and I mean all that stuff. Is that all on you guys? Like, or you hire a third party to do some of this stuff?
So Carrie Pankowski, our executive race director, and his team work with Bank of America. So and answer one of your questions, Bank of America actually owns the Bank of America Chicago Marathon.
Okay.
We acquired it with Legacy LaSalle Bank. LaSalle had owned it when it was a struggling marathon at one point.
Struggling financially or people,
it wasn't what it is today. I think last year, to your point, we had 120,000 applicants for 50,000 slots. And you think about, we've got 18,000 charity runners. You asked a question, why don't we have more? Once again, we are slowly adding to the race, just like we were slowly adding to the west side of Chicago.
Okay.
We just want to make sure that the experience from packet pickup to hotel accommodations to logistically not only welcoming the runners, but welcoming their families.
Yeah.
It's a great course to watch a race on because it loops through the city.
Yeah.
You can see people at, mile 2 and then catch them again at mile 8 and then still make it down to mile 26. It's in a tight location. And so we'll continue to expand as it allows.
You said New York's the biggest. How big? How many people do they have?
I think New York had 56 or 57,000.
So we're not too far behind.
We're not too far behind. When I first started in the president role 3 years ago, I want to say we had like 48,000. Last year,
and
we're at 52.
Who puts these limits? You put these limits on yourself, or does the city have something to do with that?
So Bank of America works alongside our race director and the city just to make sure that we're welcoming these people. Once again, there's a lot of coordination with accommodations. We have to make sure that the number of adaptive runners are safe.
Yeah.
We have to make sure we understand who's coming in from our elite runners, making sure who is running to maybe get a star for the Abbott World Majors. We're one of the 7 races in the Abbott World Majors.
Okay.
And
can you explain that real quick? Because I'm not sure.
So I think I've got it somewhere here. So Bank of America Chicago Marathon is one of 7 races in the Abbott World Majors. And so if you think about the World Majors in the United States, it'd be running Chicago, Boston, New York, and then you've got the races outside of the United States, Berlin, London, Tokyo, et cetera. Australia was new to the race. And so Abbott has got a race series where as a runner, you can, as you're running these races,
get these merit badges
you get these nice merit, these big medallions.
Yeah.
Talk about a race.
Yeah.
So we're one of 7, and so there's different things that we look at, but it's all making sure that it's the right experience for the runners and the family.
Is there a goal for like, hey, someday we'd like to have?
No, I just think it's just understanding the demand for the race.
Yeah, make sure the quality doesn't suffer.
The quality is, because to your point, race pack up, the expo opens on Thursday. So for those that might be watching or listening, the race expo starts on Thursday. And it's great, right? You've got those sister city locations there. There's all types of information, a packet pickup. Thursday is usually a day where we see it. Thursday and Friday, most of the people obviously coming in. Some on Saturday, but most people that are coming in to visit Chicago try to get their packet pickup done fairly early. Saturday, it's still busy. The bank, though, does host a dinner on Friday evening for our 200 charity partners, welcoming the people that had organized their charity groups, just to thank them for that. I do have 635 teammates running this year from Bank of America.
Whoa!
It's a large
across the country,
group.
not just local people.
It's globally.
Globally. Okay.
It's globally. I've got teammates that are coming in from Mexico City, London, Sao Paulo, Tokyo. I've got a big contingency that are actually coming in from LA, and they're supporting some of the charities there from a wildfire perspective.
Okay.
And so we host a breakfast for our teammates that morning with their partners or their spouses or significant others. And then that morning, race morning, I'm usually out. Carrie Pankowski, I want to say, is out there about 3 or 4 a.m. I usually get out there about 5 or 5:30 to do some media, but it's really to go thank the volunteers first and foremost. I go thank the people that are handing out the medals, that are going to be handing out the water, that are, coordinating things. I get out there early to thank them. I think that's important. They're taking a Sunday of their holiday weekend to volunteer and give back. And so I go see them, and then I'm there throughout the day until the last wave crosses the line, and then I meet them at the finish line.
That's fun. I'd like to kind of hear from you a little bit more about, like, from your chair, post-COVID, a lot of big cities have been, sort of people went to the suburbs and, office became remote, and now it's like sort of return to office is kind of a policy for a lot of companies. You don't see a lot of office building happening. There's not a lot of tower cranes in the sky right now. Obviously, that affects our business a lot. It's not the first time. I mean, we've had, I think 2017, we had 47 tower cranes, and then years before that, there was, 1 or 2, and now we're back to one or two. And you read a lot of headlines about budget issues and pension issues and everything else. I don't know if you could speak to any of that, but it is something I'm generally curious about, that I continue to ask questions of different business people in business, especially, the big banks and, your perspective on some of that.
So I'm gonna say something I said earlier. I'm still bullish on Chicago. We're a resilient city. And I've done some of my own analysis recently. Remember, I've got Midwest, Mid-South, Mid-Atlantic for the private bank, and I'm Chicago president. And I looked at some of the statistics that were driving business in Chicago versus my counterparts on the coast, specifically New York and LA. And if you look at where some of the new business startups are happening or the wealth creation, there's a lot of IPOs with tech and stuff happening on the coast. But I look at what we're good at doing in Chicago, and I look at the potential wave coming with technology and quantum. Chicago is a good city from a cost of living. We don't have natural disasters the same way some of the coasts have. We've got a great public transportation system. So talking about getting to and from downtown, we can do that. Even in the coldest weather, I can catch my Metro train here and make it downtown. We've got great access to talent. And so if you think about what's happening with AI right now in computers and technology, there is funding coming in from a quantum campus perspective that's potentially going to be happening on the near south side of Chicago. And if you think about the individuals that would potentially be moving to the Chicago area and some of the small startups around that and what that's going to drive, I think from an economic perspective, we could be in more of a stable position right now. But I do believe we will have upside when that happens, or I think by 2030, we're going to start to see more of that. That's what we're building on. That's what we're hearing from companies that we work with in terms of how they're going to leverage AI and technology going forward. Chicago, I mentioned that access to water. If you think about some of the cooling that's required, we've got access to fresh water. And it's just a good place from that perspective. And so I'm still bullish on Chicago. You might have heard of some large companies leaving, but it's being balanced with a lot of startups that we have in Chicago and a lot of small business. And so going back to the philanthropic lens, that's why we're really leaning into small business, leaning into helping individuals. I believe that Chicago is going to be a destination for business. I'm actually working on a business plan right now. It's saying I'm going to be here for the next 12 to 15 years, and I'm partnering with the line of business heads from the commercial bank, from the consumer bank, from our investment bank, from our global markets team to understand what do we need here in Chicago to make sure that we can assist those companies and individuals to be part of the wave in Chicago.
Great. And so no hesitation from bank leadership about lending in Chicago area?
Not at all. In fact, this is one of our larger cities. In fact, in Chicago, we have all 8 lines of business in Chicago. It's only a handful of cities that we can say that. And it's because really Chicago isn't just the 3rd largest U.S. city. It's really the hub here for the greater Midwest. Yeah. And so there's no hesitation. In fact, I'm asked, how do I continue to lean in and do more in Chicago? We've put a global information security hub in Chicago once again. Cost of living, access to talent, a place that you can draw from other Midwestern cities. Yeah. And it's interesting, as we're hiring, I'm finding people that had moved to the coast at one point for a job or a career, and they want to come back to the Midwest. And maybe they're leaving New York or LA or San Francisco. Chicago is a destination. So I'd never count Chicago out. I'm still bullish on it.
And I think, too, like just getting to, like through O'Hare or Midway, just getting to and from all over the country just is so simple and easy. I mean, O'Hare is not super easy, but just in general, though, like just having the access to direct flights, we take that for granted so easily.
I will tell you, when they had asked me when I became the CEO for the commercial bank, would I be willing to move to New York? And I said, well, it wouldn't be my first choice, and let me tell you why Chicago. I'm like on the central time zone. I can navigate both coasts. I can get to across the United States. I can make it to the East Coast in 2 hours, worst case San Diego 3.5 hours. I said it's a great central location, and O'Hare not only flies to every destination nonstop. I started to comment on the number of global flights that we have as well to get to colleagues in London, Sao Paulo, Tokyo, et cetera. So I think Chicago's a great place to be, and I plan on retiring here.
Me too. We want to shift gears to personal, like so.
Sure.
So you
I'm an open book.
We got your professional. Yeah. And at what point did you guys, where were you living, and you got married, and you said you mentioned your daughter, and
so born and raised, like I had mentioned, in Chicago. I'd spent most of my adult life in my 20s and 30s living downtown.
Okay.
Near Lakeshore and Division, and easy to get to work, great social life. Parents were out in the suburbs, and 4th of July 2009, I had a friend who was coming in from San Diego. He was supposed to come in with his wife, who I was mutual friends with, and she couldn't make it. And he's like, I'm going to bring my detachment commander. We just came back from the Middle East. And he's like, I think you would get along. And I'm like, I do not need to meet a man who's in the Navy, who's in San Diego. Like, what's that going to do me? Sure enough, 6 months later, thankfully, I worked for a global bank. I was moving to Southern California with my husband, now Randy. So I met a man who spent 20 years in Navy Special Warfare. He retired in 2015. Fortunately, because I chose to stay at a global bank, I was able to live in Southern California. He was stationed at Coronado for, I think, 17 of his 20 years. His last year or so, he was stationed at a team in Little Creek, Virginia. So I went there, but he was mostly doing workups or deployed. So I would come back to Chicago was still really my home. When he retired in 2015, we knew we wanted to try to have a family. He was originally from Nebraska. He's a farm boy from Nebraska.
Okay.
Grew up in a town of 1,000 people,
Oh, wow.
So very different than Chicago. But he said, sure, we'll make Chicago our home. But we knew that we wanted to be near family. And my parents live in the southwest suburbs. And so we decided to move out to the southwest suburbs. We joke for the 3 Bs, babysitters, bedrooms and backyards at the time. And plus, my husband wanted a little bit more space. I did keep my house in the city till 2016, the year my daughter was born. We had a condo downtown. But I'm thankful for the bank. I mentioned early on, I'd spent a 50th birthday with my girlfriends I'd grown up with, and I've got a 9-year-old. So my start was a little bit late, but going back, I'll stay at the bank for many reasons. One, I love the people I work with. 2, I really enjoy the client aspect.
Yeah.
It's probably some of my, that and the civic work's the thing I love the most about what I do. It's the people, it's the clients, it's the work I do. And I'm not being Pollyannish. If you know me, you genuinely know that I care about those things.
For sure.
But my path to parenthood was challenged 6 months after I got married. And my husband in 2009, we got married in 2011. He was deployed. He was on the continent of Africa at the time. He was in Kenya, Uganda, and South Sudan. And I had gotten a call from the doctor after a checkup that I'd found out I had cancer and that I was going to lose the ability to carry a child.
Oh, wow.
And I remember I'd gotten the information, and he was gone, and I was at my parents' house out here in the southwest suburbs. And I'm like, okay, well, my husband and I don't have children. What does that mean? And they're like, well, let me set you up with a specialist. So fast forward, the bank supported me between 2011. I'd had my surgery in 2012. I was cancer-free. I never needed chemo or radiation.
Wow. Congratulations on that.
Thankful to modern medicine. My daughter is the product of 6 surrogates. I'd had 5 IVF retrievals. I had 4 miscarriages post-heartbeat with genetically normal embryos. My daughter was the last genetically frozen embryo that we'd had. And
it's a miracle.
She was a miracle. Like, I had 1 left. We transferred 1, and it was a Hail Mary. And so she was born in June of 2016. And so you'll see me. I bring her out on a lot of the race days.
I've seen the pictures.
My daughter, I always joke, I'm like, do you want mommy to be home more? She's like, no, you've got to go to the bank to get the money. She thinks just because I work there, they give me money. But she gets the concept now. But I always tell people, they're like, how do you balance it? You're a mother, you're a wife. And I said, I always try to have my head where my feet are at. So if I'm in work, I'm at work. Like, I'll occasionally have my phone out.
How do you do that? I need some good tips.
I know.
I need to work on this one.
People talk about balance. I don't think there is balance. I think there's harmony in your life. And so when I'm at work, I try to be at work. I know my daughter is either with my husband, with my parents. She's at school. I will occasionally look at my watch if it beeps just to make sure it's not school or my husband. My husband never calls me during the day unless it's something that's really important. And so I've come to that realization. But when I'm home, I'm home. In fact, I learned from a colleague, a woman who runs, she's the co-head of a Merrill. Her name is Lindsay Hans. She taught me, she's like, when she comes home, she leaves her phones in the garage. So
in the garage.
Before she walks in the house. So from 6:30 to 8, because she has got young children.
Yeah.
Now at 8 o'clock, she'll pick her phone back up after her children are down.
It's an attached garage, I guess.
So it's an attached garage. You might have to walk out in the city to go get it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm trying to think about this for me.
But she puts it down for the hour and a half.
Okay.
And so I paused and I said, really, what's going to happen in the hour and a half? Instead of me just trying to look at it, I pick it back up at 8. Something happens, and nothing has happened where they have needed me for that hour and a half. And it's been a game changer. Yeah, I usually have to go on later at night and answer an email. I also hold my emails till the next morning unless it's urgent for somebody else. Because what I've realized is if I send somebody an email and they're checking it before bed at 9 or 10 or whenever they go to bed, they don't have the answer. They're going to be stressed all night.
Yeah.
And so I bring my whole self to work. I bring my whole self home. But that's how I find some balance.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your vulnerability and your story of surviving cancer and the miracle of your daughter. And it's incredible to hear different people's stories on how people come together. Like you said, you weren't looking for somebody.
I wasn't.
Here you are.
And I always tell people, you know what, whether it's personal, professional, you know, people say this a lot now, but be your authentic self. People can see through that.
Yeah.
Do a good job in the job you're in. Like you said, someone's going to notice it.
Yeah.
But you also have to be your own self-advocate. But, you know, to anyone younger that's coming into the workforce, it's hard to believe I celebrate 28 years this year.
Wow.
Celebrate 30 in 2 years. I will take sabbatical. We have a sabbatical program.
Yeah, I've heard about it, yeah.
I'll take sabbatical, but it goes by fast.
Yeah.
And I've had offers to go other places, never for less, always for more. But I stay for the reasons I'd mentioned. And I stay for the network I've created.
I mean, that's another thing for people to hear. You know, you don't necessarily jump at the highest offer. I mean,
I don't.
You know, it's there's more to like a decision like that than money.
There's a lot more, and I think people think they've got to get to the next place. And there's been times throughout my career I was passed over for something, but it ended up okay in the end.
Yeah.
I actually went on to do something different that I got a new skill set on.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed. I'm blessed with a great career. I'm blessed with a wonderful husband and parents. My parents live with me. We put an in-law suite in for my parents when we built our home. They had given a lot to me when I was younger, and I'm happy I can provide a different type of retirement for them.
Honor your mother and father.
That's
the first commandment with the promise that it goes well with you.
I will tell you, and it's been a great relationship for my daughter. I mean, her best friend.
Yeah, I mean,
my best friends are my
there's a lot of science around multi-generational families. You know, under the same roof, and the benefits of that.
I think if you can do it, and you're blessed to do that. It's not for everybody, but I love it, and I'm thankful to have it.
Yeah, and tell me about Mokina. You know, like your experience here in Mokina. I mean, our corporate headquarters in Mokina. You're a Mokina resident. You know, how's the experience?
I love Mokina.
Yeah. What do you love about it?
I love the community aspect.
Okay.
I love the fact that it is close enough to a big city, but it's still a small town feel.
Okay.
You know, listen, my husband's a member of the VFW. He just joined the Lions Club. I'm going to be my daughter's classroom teacher. They still have those. We're going to a pancake breakfast.
I love
the
it.
morning of my birthday.
I used to go to those all the time.
October 5th. It's my birthday morning, and I'll be at the Lions Club.
Happy birthday.
Breakfast this coming week. So, you know, it reminds me of my childhood, but in a different way. You know your neighbors. There's a community feel. People care about one another. I'm
glad to hear it. I don't live here, but I work here. And
it's a good community.
Yeah.
And by the way, listen, I also picked it from a train line perspective when we were looking.
So how often are you doing
So we are back to office.
Okay.
So going back to your other question, Bank of America's work from office policy is that at minimum our teammates are in 3 days a week. Some line of businesses like mine are in 4. You expect that we have an apprenticeship culture. You learn by being around other people, overhearing conversations. You miss those conversations between the meetings when you're walking down the hallways if you're home by yourself. But we understand there's a certain level of flexibility to get things done, or you might want to be challenged with commute or a doctor appointment. You don't need the day off. You can be remote. Leaders, we like our leaders to try to be in 5 days a week so that they can pay it forward to their teammates. Yeah. And so when I'm not traveling to one of the 10 markets or 17 cities I oversee in the United States, in addition to being Chicago president, I'm downtown.
And do you always take the train?
I don't always take the train, but I try to take the train. One, it's reliable. There's an express train from Mokina that's 39 minutes to go 38 miles.
That's great.
It allows me to be able to decompress before I go into the house, get those last minute emails done before I put my phone down in the garage for an hour and a half. And there are some days I have to drive if I have an evening event or a very early morning event. But I try to take the train, public transportation, as much as possible.
Oh, that's great. It's great. It's great having you here.
It's been wonderful, Marty.
Yeah, and I wish you all the best with the marathon. I mean, it's a big day, and it's coming up quick.
Yeah, I look forward to coming back. And I could wear my race gear today. I didn't have my traditional banker outfit on. So anytime you want me back, I'll just say I'm working from our Mokina office.
Well, we might have to debrief once the thing's over and just kind of like recap like what worked and see if there's a new world record.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to come back.
Is there any hope of that happening this year?
There actually is. I think, so this is a competitive field. If you're watching the marathon for the first time, I suggest you watch this one. So as I mentioned, Kelvin Kiptum currently holds the world record. Kelvin set the record of 2 hours and 35 seconds back in 2023. I was fortunate to be able to hold the tape as he was crossing the finish line. With that said, he did pass away that following year in an accident coming down from his trading facility in the mountains of Kenya. With that, last year, we had a Kenyan that had run the race that won the Bank of America Chicago Marathon and won Boston this year. He will be back this year.
Okay.
And so the goal is, there's a Ugandan that's coming in as well. Both of them want to try to not only beat Kelvin's record of 2 hours and 35 seconds, they want to go sub 2 hours. And so I have a feeling at some point, Marty, you and I will be having a conversation, and Chicago might hold a new record from a different race. Yeah,
it's an amazing thing how never in the history of human beings, these things are happening. It's just to pushing new limits. I think that's what makes sort of the human experience kind of, it's just exciting to witness different people doing different things. And right here in our city of Chicago, and, for you to like be at the finish line, it's a real proud moment. And I'm just very proud of you and the bank for all of what you're doing, because it's a wonderful day and you're having a big impact on this whole area and through so many different ways, and our company too. We're just, again, I said it earlier, but we're just very thankful for the relationship and the impact you've had on us, our family, all of our coworkers, and our customers. I mean, it's really like you said, a partnership, and we're grateful. And I appreciate the partnership and you giving us an opportunity to talk about what we do from a business perspective and what we're doing with the marathon. Yeah. At the end of the day, it really is a city that works. It's a city that gives back. And from a Chicagoland perspective, I think it's a great day in that, we talk about the elite athletes. But when you go out there and you see the adaptive runners, or you see somebody that's running their first marathon, or we have a colleague who pushes wheelchairs for those that can't walk themselves. Yeah, that's awesome. It's just, there's all shapes and sizes, forms out there from 140 countries, all 50 states. It is really a global and diverse event in the best possible way. Well, enjoy the day, and Thank you. I think I mentioned I live right off the course on Taylor Street, and I'll be there rooting people on this year. In fact, we run past one of the Ozinga right off of Cermak. We go right past on Cermak, Chinatown.
Right in Chinatown. Great location to watch the marathon. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you for holding. I look forward to coming back. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Make sure to subscribe to Set in Stone on your preferred podcast app, as well as on YouTube for full video of every conversation. Keep up on our social media and company updates over at ozinga.com.